great escape and the quiet well of Midian. Long ago in the golden land of Egypt, a young man named Moses lived in a grand palace. Though he was raised as a prince, he knew in his heart that he belonged to the Hebrew people who worked so hard under the hot sun. One morning, he stepped out of the palace gates to see how his people were faring, his heart heavy with a desire to help them. While Moses was walking, he saw something that made his blood boil. A cruel Egyptian taskmaster was beating a Hebrew worker. Moses looked this way and that, and seeing no one else around, he rushed in to stop the injustice. In his anger and desire to protect his brother, Moses struck the Egyptian down and hid him in the sand. The next day Moses went out again, hoping for peace. Instead, he found two Hebrew men fighting each other. "Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew?" he asked. But one of the men snapped back, "Who made you our ruler and judge? Are you going to kill me, just as you killed that Egyptian?" Moses trembled with fear, realizing his secret was known. News of what happened reached the ears of the mighty Pharaoh. The king was furious and ordered that Moses be punished. With no other choice, Moses fled from the only home he had ever known. He traveled far across the scorching sands, leaving behind the palace, his family, and his identity as a prince. Exhausted and thirsty, Moses finally reached the land of Midian. He found a cool stone well and sat down to rest his weary legs. He felt like a stranger in a strange land, wondering if God had forgotten him in the middle of this quiet, dusty wilderness. Soon, 7 sisters arrived at the well. They were the daughters of Reuel, a priest in Midian. They began to draw water to fill the troughs for their father's large flock of sheep. Among them was Zipporah, who worked with grace and strength despite the heavy buckets. Moses watched them from the shadows, impressed by their hard work. Suddenly, a group of grumpy shepherds marched up to the well. They pushed the sisters aside, trying to take the water for their own animals. But Moses would not stand for bullying. He stood up with his staff and drove the shepherds away, then stayed to help the sisters water all their thirsty sheep. When the sisters returned home much earlier than usual, their father Reuel was surprised. "How did you finish so quickly today?" he asked. Zipporah stepped forward with a smile. "An Egyptian man rescued us from the shepherds," she explained. "He even drew the water for us and watered the entire flock." "Where is he?" Reuel asked. "Why did you leave him there? Go and invite him to eat with us." Moses was welcomed into their home with a warm meal. He found a new life in Midian, and in time he married Zipporah. The former prince of Egypt became a humble shepherd, learning to care for sheep in the quiet hills. Years passed, and Moses and Zipporah had a son named Gershom. While Moses lived his quiet life, the people back in Egypt were still suffering. They cried out to God, and God heard their groaning. He remembered his promise to their ancestors. Though Moses didn't know it yet, God was preparing him for the greatest mission of all.